You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
Now, he's coming. He's a large amphibian that happens to carry a law degree. He's our legal advice, the Law Frog! D. McD, if he was a rapper, otherwise you call him Dave McDivitt, in the house with his fancy Perrier water and a thirst for helping the Kilo Nation. How's that for an intro, buddy?
I like that.
Kind of scary.
I like the Kilo Nation. I like my Perrier.
You do, man.
I'm an all-around
Not the only
person.
cat. I've been in the studio for, I don't know how many broadcast hours, hundreds and hundreds of thousands. Only guy to ever bring in his own Perrier is you, Mr. McDivitt.
There may be an R. Okay, but Ross, we need to talk about. There's an R at the end of it, but that R is silent.
So it's Perrier.
Perrier.
See, we're learning something every single fancy stuff, huh? Maybe we'll start talking about that the caviar later in the broadcast.
That one's, I think, a little different. I don't think they say caviar. I like a little bit more caviar.
He's just bringing the level in the studio up. That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm doing something to the level.
Fancy. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. How are you?
Very good. Trying to get my head wrapped around this crazy world that seems to devolve every single day.
We're talking about the Broncos?
Broncos actually are evolving, it seems like. Man, I was talking earlier, it's like those defenses in the AFC West are getting downright scary. Because they have all these great quarterbacks they got to try to crush.
But the whole thing is just going to be nuts. Great quarterbacks, great defenses.
Oh, man.
It's a good day to be in the AFC West.
I think so, because the fact they have to muscle up to tangle with their nemesis means they're going to be better than everything else out there, I'm thinking, man. It's like everyone has gravitated to the AFC West. It's great. Except for me, because I'm a Chiefs fan. I don't need that. I don't need good defenses running around. I like the half-ass defense the Broncos have had the last 6 years.
Chiefs or cheese?
Chiefs, man.
Oh, gosh.
Hey,
all right, well.
You've got your fancy water. I have my disabled franchise. We're both broken toys. Okay, well, we got lots to cover here today.
Island.
We got Citizen Jeff with a question about a car accident. He thinks the DA has screwed up his case. Does that happen a lot? Like, mess ups in internal offices that lead to cases falling apart? Is that a common theme or very
I wouldn't call it common. I mean, case mishaps aren't a common thing.
Yeah.
It can happen, and it also could be a matter of perception of what's supposed to happen and what really does happen. So, I mean, it's a question of, what are the procedures, what really does take place versus maybe what a person's expectations of what should take place are. So that oftentimes complicates things.
And a lot of people, if you lose in the court of law, you feel like you've been screwed over by justice.
That's right.
It's not right. It's just a common feeling, right?
No, yes, it is. But I'll tell you this too. I mean, that doesn't mean that there aren't mistakes made in every aspect of the law too. I mean, it's. I wouldn't say that it's common, but it can happen.
All right. So that's going to be Josh's problem. We'll talk to Citizen Tom too. I don't know if he's going to be on the air or not with an interesting one. He and his wife are separating. They have a child, but it comes from an affair that she had. Does he have legal custody and stuff? He raised the kid as his own and all that. That's tough on a few different levels. But before we get to the serious stuff, and by the way, if you have anything to add, or you want a question answered by Mr. McDivitt over here, the rock lines are open for you at 719-633-KILO. So do that. Now, can I move on to something I think I've already figured out? I've been hanging out with you for long enough. I fancy myself like a community college lawyer.
I like that.
Yeah?
The CCL.
So there's a guy in Texas.
Yeah.
He claims he's making $75,000 a year simply by suing telemarketers. His name, Dan Graham from Austin, Texas. He's his day job, financial consultant, but he got pissed about all those calls. I just got one of those a few minutes ago for my warranty on my 06 Jeep that never existed. Is almost up. Get a new one. So what he does here, he says he signs up and for the no-call list, and when he still receives calls, then he sues those companies, and he wins. He claims a lot of these companies don't even know this happening as they use outside contractors for marketing, and once they find out, they stop it. He says some 10 of the companies he sued have now changed their marketing strategy, $75,000 a year. Is that even possible, do you think?
Okay, well, we've got two issues here. I think don't bury the lead here, which is that there is a hero out there in Texas who was doing God's work.
Truly. And
All
I
right.
said, if this is legitimate, this is my new part-time hustle. I get off work, go home, bust the balls at telemarketers.
That's
that
right.
would be awesome.
I think we ought, as a community, ought to get together and just help support this guy, subsidize this guy so he can continue this work.
Fight the good fight, sir.
And spread this goodwill around the entire nation, get him to stop calling all of us, because I'm getting these warranty calls all the time.
Right.
No, but
and everything else.
Yeah, there are these provisions in the laws that allow a consumer to, let's say they put their name on the no-call list. There are penalties then for people who violate that. The problem is a lot of people don't take...
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to take my community college law degree.
That's right.
I think, yes, he has been awarded $75,000 in settlements, but good luck getting that money from the telemarketers. Am I right?
Maybe.
Oh, I thought that was like...
Well, I mean...
Isn't that right, sir?
He's awarded this, so he's got a court order. Is that right? He's got a judgment awarding him the money?
That's what he claims.
Then, unless they're insolvent, he will get that money.
Wow.
I mean, wouldn't you...
Now, but wouldn't some of these companies just belly up then if they were, this guy money, I'm gone. They're not exactly the most legitimate or the most trustworthy individuals, I would imagine.
Well, I don't know. That's why I say maybe. I mean, I don't know who these companies are. And how well funded they are. If this is just somebody doing it out of their basement and they get a hold of a list and then they just start making these calls. But I mean, there's some level of sophistication to these, assuming that they're, I'm assuming some of them are domiciled here in the United States. They are registered with the respective Secretary of State in whatever state they're in. I mean, there are ways to then attach a judgment and collect the money. So
I'm actually saying this is possible then. And if you do get a judgment, but then we've had people who have talked about getting judgments. It's nowhere close to $75,000, but judgments for. I think we had a guy who got a car wreck or something, was given X amount of money. It's like $3,000, and it wasn't worth fighting. Is what we kind of came down to it there.
Look, we see this. I mean, you can get a judgment for $2 million against somebody who caused a car crash because they're uninsured. So there's no way you're not going after, and they kind of disappear. They don't show up to court, but you get this $2 million judgment because your client has $2 million worth of legitimate damages. Uh-huh. And then the question is, can you collect that? Well, it's a little different if you're dealing with some insolvent bum who borrowed a car. It was uninsured. He himself is uninsured. He causes this crash, and he's just kind of flitting in and out of the picture just in the universe, right? Good luck getting $2 million from that guy. Getting $75,000 from a basket of telemarketing companies seems to me to be a lot more reasonable of an endeavor. Now, again, he may have to... I mean, if they don't pony up, I mean, he's got to file some collection action against them, and there are going to be attorney's costs, just general court costs.
But that's big of a nut to do the work, though, for $75,000 as opposed to like a couple $3,000 where it's like, well, you're going to spend that much of your time.
Again, it goes back to the bearing the lead. This guy's doing God's work.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, I'm all in. That's my new side hustle. Ross Ford, I'm going to be a $75,000 heir.
Okay, $75,000 heir. I like that. Why don't you start with my telephone number? All right, start defending my number. 44444, even the score. Just dial 4.
And if you don't want to call, just say, please stop calling. He'll be like, okay.
No, it's my private cell phone number that gets these phone calls.
That's the one you don't want in the middle of the night.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
So we'll work on the intro for the folks at the law firm. In the meantime, let's see what we got. You got anything to add, by the way? You need help. We're here. We got about another half hour or so at least with Dave. So 633-KILO or 800-727-KILO. If you want to stay off the air too, we can do that.
Ross, the best half hour of your life.
It is, man. By the way, you got new hair or something? It looks good. I'm not sure.
Got a little bit of a haircut.
Nice. I like it. It's very summery.
Yeah.
Getting ready?
I can't wait. I literally cannot wait for summer.
It's coming, man. After hopefully this could be the last blast. Every time we have a storm like this, it could be the last one.
I know. And by the way, listen, I know we need water. I know we need moisture. I'm not the guy who,
You're just saying.
I'm just saying on a very personal, convenience level, I miss the summer.
Right. Let's turn to Josh, who missed about a month after being whacked by a drunk driver. It happened in August in 2020. He says he was hospitalized, number of serious injuries for about a month. My wife and dog was injured. You never think about the dogs. Do the insurance companies even care if your dog is messed up in an accident? Do they help? Just say your dog breaks a leg in a car accident. Is that something that they cover?
Well, a couple of different ways to answer that. Number one, you might have health insurance for your pet. They've got pet insurance that may cover the medical bills for that. And but typically, animals in Colorado are treated like private property, personal property. So it's a question of trying to value. If the dog died, I mean, it gets a little complicated. But no, it's not the same as saying my dog's gonna need X amount in future surgery and medical costs and rehabilitation and.
Wow.
Yeah,
I never thought about that, Josh's question. So anyway, he filled out all the stuff from the DA. So I assume in this, how does that work? I'm hit by a drunk driver. What is the DA involved? What do they say to me?
Okay, so we've got a couple of different things here. And I know we've tried to reach out to Josh, I think, and not been able to get a hold of him.
Yeah, we just tried calling you Josh here on the air, man. So if you hear the words coming out of our mouth, give us a call.
Flesh out the details here. But it sounds like, he was in the hospital for a month. And what they are doing, the district attorney is prosecuting the person who caused the crash, which is
drunk.
Very common, right? And so in the normal aspect of a prosecution, they will ask the victim to answer a series of questions having to do with how that person has been damaged. And then what will happen is that the prosecutor will ask the court to award, or as part of the asking of damages at some point, try to get a court to judge to order restitution.
Okay, that's what it says here. So
right.
I sent in my folder of things I seek restitution for.
Right, correct. And so what that is it becomes a court order that is attached to the defendant in that criminal case at sentencing that says you are now obligated to pay the victim X amount of money. And what they do typically is the defendant is supposed to put that money into the registry of the court, and then that is dispersed to the victim. And it's fraught with challenges. Sometimes you get your money that way. Sometimes you don't. Oftentimes, the defendant, especially in a drunk driving crash, doesn't have the proverbial pot to piss in, right? And so there's not a lot of money that they're going to be able to then put into the registry of the court. But you can ask for damages for any number of different things, whether it's
missing work, your car.
But usually it's kind of. I mean, a lot of it has to do
pain
with
and suffering.
The medical bill. Like I've incurred this, or and it can get down to the minutia too. Like it broke my cell phone carrier, right, in the crash. And so, but there is a fine line that you have to walk to when seeking restitution when you've been in a car crash, because if there is insurance involved, it's really important that you talk to the lawyer, assuming you have a lawyer helping you with your car crash injuries, navigate that restitution process, because you might not want overlap. It's just very complicated. And so that's why I always tell people, if you've been in a car crash, get with a lawyer, try to get with one right away. They can help you navigate even the little things like the restitution process.
Right. So and it's very important. I was at a wreck when I first started here years ago, and I was young and dumb and had no idea, and I didn't want to get involved. It sounded, complex, and I wound up getting hosed by the insurance company so much. Like, I wanted my Jeep back because it was pretty much totaled. They were going to total it and give me a check for it. I was like, I want it back.
In 1948 Jeep Willie?
Yeah, exactly. And they held me over the barrel for that thing. They were going to crush it, and they weren't going to give it back to me unless I paid this much for them. And to this day, I still look back. It's like, man, I should have called this guy. Well, it made a huge difference. Okay, sorry, we're getting off track with Josh.
So anyway, Josh's issue, it sounds like, is that he filled out the paperwork.
Send it to him. He says send it to him.
He sent it in to the district attorney. She never acknowledged receipt of it. She never called him back. He left voicemails for her, and he couldn't get a hold of her. And so then finally he finds out that the court case is apparently closed against this drunk driver, and the restitution paperwork never truly got considered because they said that they could only see the telephone number on there.
Yeah, they claim that's all they had was paper with his number, and they didn't know what it was about. He's like, I had my case file on there, I had my name, I had all the stuff proving what I wanted for restitution, and now it's done. The court case is done, so he wants to know, can he still get restitution? And if not, where does he go from here? That's tough. Okay,
a couple of things. And there may be a way, if you can get the DA, just a DA to talk to, there may be a way. And
how many DAs are there? I'm familiar. How many? Is there only one DA?
Well, there in every judicial district in Colorado, we have an elected district attorney.
Okay.
And that person sits in kind of a quasi-political seat, where they are administering the entire judicial office, or the district attorney's office in that judicial district. But then they have a handful, a couple, dozens, depending on the size of the judicial district, assistant district attorneys who generally do the prosecuting of these cases. So when we talk about the DA here, I'm almost certain we're talking about the assistant district attorney. Unassistant district attorney, or a deputy district attorney. Okay. And they have different titles relative to what their actual function is. So you might have the assistant DA, but then you have a bunch of deputy DAs. So we're probably talking about a deputy DA on a case like this, and she's going to have just, I don't know what her caseload looks like, but she's going to have a number of cases, and it's her job to prosecute and try to get plea deals or to take these to trial and be the trial attorney that you see in the TV shows like Law and Order. And so Colorado Springs has a lot more district attorneys than you might find, and Colorado Springs encompasses the 4th Judicial District, but then you would find, say, in slightly smaller, the 10th Judicial District down in Pueblo. So this is kind of a long-winded way of saying they may be able to reopen with respect to restitution. I'm not confident in that answer. I mean, it's something that the district attorney can explain. What I don't know the true posture of this case, right, where it is. I mean, has it been truly closed out?
So let's just take Josh's side of things. Let's say he did everything correctly. He filed his restitution papers. He sent them to them, and somehow they were misplaced by the DA or the deputy DA or the DA in the 10th and the 5th.
We have no idea.
How would he prove that, though? You really have a hard time, probably, right?
So you've got a couple of things here, and I'm going to open it up to a question for which I don't know the answer because I just haven't come across it.
Stop the press. You know everything. You told me that specifically when you walked in the building today. You're like, "Hey, it's me, Dave. I know everything." It's like, "Hey, Dave."
I just say that to everybody when I meet them. I'm like, "Hey, I'm David. I know everything."
Very impressive.
I do it at the bar a lot. It's I'll tell you what, that's a killer line.
All right, hold on, write that one down.
Yeah, it gets me.
Hello, hi, my name's Blank. I know everything.
I know everything.
That'll impress him.
Yeah, right. Yeah, here's a practice pointer. Don't actually say that because I'm the one who knows everything. Anyway, so is there an administrative action, something they can file a complaint against the district attorney's office, a grievance of some sort, trying to then get recompensed by the judicial district, or the district attorney's office for that money that they otherwise would have had as a court order, which they may not have been able to collect against too. That's the thing. So that's a separate issue. But then your primary question was how do they prove it?
Yeah.
And so that we start looking at the paper trail, and this is why you've heard me say it before, send a certified letter.
Right, you want their signature on that stuff.
That's a little different than filing court paperwork isn't something done with a certified letter, but it's that same kind of concept that you want to make sure that when you are filing the court paperwork, you're doing it in a way that is appropriate given the circumstances. And so when they ask for restitution paperwork, they may say mail it back in this envelope, or bring it down here to the court. What you want to do, and this is for people in the future.
Right, word of the wise kind of?
Yeah, make sure, get some kind of proof that they've received it and they've accepted it into the file. And then also go to sentencing too.
Be a part of it?
Be a part of that sentencing to make sure that restitution is being asked for, because there's a chance that at that point that they didn't get it, and then you can raise your hand and the courts will listen. They will ask, the judge is going to listen and say, hey, look, I filled out this restitution paperwork, and the court and the DA is going to say, oh, I didn't get it. And the court's going to say, okay, well, we're going to delay sentencing or the entry of the restitution order.
That's a chance for you to do the whole, Your Honor, where is my restitution paperwork, Your Honor?
And the Honor will say, you cannot handle the restitution paperwork.
Very interesting. All right, so Josh, there is hope. All right? There is a little bit of hope.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
So we got some similarities in regards to name on birth certificate, what that means for you and what is it? Custody. I almost said the ownership of the child. Custody is just fancy word for ownership. First of all, let's get to Kay. She's got an interesting one. Quick marriage. July of last year is when you got married. Is that right, Kay?
Yeah, that's right.
How long were you guys together before you got married, by the way? I'm curious.
A year.
Wow. And so things obviously changed dramatically when you got wedded, right?
Yeah, everything was fine until a couple of months ago. So.
Wow. Isn't that crazy how it works sometimes?
Yeah,
all right, so the question is really this, correct me if I'm wrong. You bought a house a couple months before you guys officially got married. It's under his name. You want to know if you have any rights, or you have bills with your name on it, though, right?
Yep.
What kind of
What do
bills?
you think, Dave
Well,
McTeague?
okay.
What do you say?
Who's paying the mortgage?
Oh, I can't hear him. I'm sorry.
Let's see
make
here.
sure she can hear me.
How about now? Can you hear him now? Check.
Can you? Oh, hey, Kay, can you hear me?
Oh, there I can hear you.
Oh, this is good. So my question for you is, who's been paying the mortgage?
Who pays the mortgage? He does.
He
and
does.
the loan is in his name.
The home's in his name. He bought the home for two months prior when you guys got married.
Correct.
It stayed in his home. You've never put your name on the home, and he's paying the mortgage.
Yes.
Okay. You said you've got some bills attached to that house. What kind of bills are we talking about? Oh, okay, we lost you.
You there? Oh, she's gone.
Oh, is she gone?
There
Oh,
she
no,
is.
there. Come back to us. Okay, come back.
Stupid cell phones. Why can't they fix that instead of offering me warranties all the time? Kay, are you there? She hit a dead spot there.
no. Okay, come back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There you are. Yes. What bills? What bills you got,
bills?
Kay?
The water bill and the gas bill.
Okay, you paid those. They come to you
Yeah.
in your name? Oh, come on. Okay. Oh,
It turned into a Chevy Chase bit.
Oh my God! I'm ready to just throw the phone out the window. Yeah, I paid to start the services because you had to pay to initially turn on the water and the gas.
Okay,
So she's paying probably half the mortgage with that right
let
there.
me ask, why didn't he pay to start the service?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Why didn't he start the service himself under his name? Why was
Because
that?
he's an idiot.
He's a jerk.
Okay.
He's an ass.
Well,
Okay.
so I mean, honestly, the whole house thing. I found the house. I dealt with the realtor. He just signed papers.
Yeah. So listen, generally,
When they got married, it was
so one of the questions in a divorce is who owns the home. You know, who's going to get the home? How's the home going to be divided? And you have an issue of what they call marital property or separate property. And
Okay.
so there's going to be a preliminary determination needs to be made by the court as to whether this was separate property. Was this your husband's property that he brought into the marriage? And it's a fact-specific analysis. What that means is there's no clear-cut answer, yes or no, until like if you take a broad stroke to this, right? So every situation is going to be a little different. In your situation, there are a lot of facts that I'm hearing right now that tell me that this might be separate property. This may just be your husband's house that he brought into the marriage. The fact that he's paying the mortgage, that it is under his name.
the fact they were together doesn't change things at all. It's not like he bought it and then 2 months later they met and then they fell in love and then they got married.
Yeah, I mean, so well, you're the one who found the realtor and you pushed him into doing it and all of these things, and you initiated getting the utilities turned on. Well, those may be a factor, but it may not be enough to take that house and put it into marital property. And once it's into marital property, and then you can start looking at whether it needs to be divided, equally. How are you guys going to divide that kind of thing? You've only been married for about a year, and that may implicate or may impact some of this analysis as well, because you're also looking at appreciation. Is the home appreciated? And so if it's appreciated considerably, but it was separate property, that's a different fact analysis than if it's marital property and it's appreciated. You may be able to make the argument that though it's separate property, because of all the work you put into maintaining it, that its appreciation is attributed to you, or partly you should be attributed to you. I know that how home prices have generally gone up over the last year, and then
Who does she ask?
entitled to.
Is it in the divorce that she gets the answer whether or not it's
Yeah, this is kind of stuff that gets hammered out. If you hire a lawyer to help you out with this, that's one of the things they're going to start looking at immediately. And they may be able to look at the facts and find out some more facts and be able to give you a fairly conclusive perspective on it. Now, here's the thing: something may be true, and it may be that you go to court and you get a judge to say that this is going to be marital property, but it could be that the journey to get there isn't worth it, that the risk of it coming out against you is high enough that you start to have a settlement discussion with your spouse as part of the divorce proceedings that's maybe facilitated by family law attorneys. That's the kind of lawyer you would actually call to help you with this, would be a family law lawyer.
All right, we got a couple of things to kill, so I don't have much more time for you,
All right,
Kate. But what does she have going for her?
Well,
What's positive in this case for her?
the fact that she's been paying some of the utility bills,
Okay.
and the fact that if you can argue that it's not marital, it's not separate, then she's got a much stronger platform on which to stand. But I
and
don't.
the negative is the fact that he bought it 2 months before they were wed.
Yeah, he owns it's his technically. Like he's on the paperwork, she's not on the title. She's
wow.
I mean, that's tricky.
No easy answers ever. All right,
Okay,
Kate.
so then the last question that I had for you was, or the last factor I should say, he already put the house on the market to sell like 2 months ago.
Okay. Well, then what you would try to do is get an injunction, a court to get in and say he can't actually sell the house yet, or
And that might expedite things getting settled.
Yeah, exactly. But so you're gonna have to make those arguments in front of a court too. So here's what I would suggest doing: is just get a family law lawyer. They can walk you through all of this. And by the way, oftentimes you can just consult with them for an hour. It may be several $100s, but it may be the best $200, $300, $400 that you've ever spent.
All right, Kay, good luck. And as we learn every time we have you in there, no easy answers when it comes to law. So we go from home ownership now to child ownership. We got Citizen Tom checked in, and he didn't want to go on the air with this one. Tom and his wife are going through a divorce. They have one child, well, kind of together. He raised it as his own child, but it was conceived in an affair. I don't know how Tom's affair led to his wife getting pregnant.
I'm sorry, I'm staring at you with blank eyes. I don't know. I have seen a movie one time that explained this.
So she had an affair, and then they had a kid. His name, now this changed things. We were talking to him off the air, and you were kind of shaking your head until you learned that it's Tom's name on the birth certificate.
Right.
So, and it changes things dynamic, you say, right?
Well, absolutely. So what you have is a situation where this baby is born to a mother and a man who becomes the father, a couple that want to raise this child as their own, right? And the mother puts Tom's name on the birth certificate. Tom signs the birth certificate. That's acknowledging whether you can say it's acknowledging paternity, not biological paternity, but that he's accepting the responsibilities of paternity.
It's a good man, too.
And he is, and I really admire that. And I think the way that the court looks at this is, from my understanding, that you are
your kid.
That is your child from a custody perspective now. If they're getting a divorce, he wants to know what kind of custody rights he has. He has the same rights as somebody who had adopted a child, same rights as somebody for whom they were the biological parent who also signed the birth certificate. The only challenging thing is, and I do not think that this is an issue here because they explained off the air that the true biological father has totally vanished, has nothing to do with this child. And unless that biological father comes into the picture, basically challenging paternity, then you've got another custody split issue at that point. But I don't see how that overcomes the fact that you have been this child's parent for 10 years. You are on the birth certificate, and you have all of the rights and obligations that go along with that, including when this divorce, you can't say, well, it's actually not my child, so I'm not going to pay child support. I mean, you're going to be on the hook for that.
Right, so it goes both ways.
Yeah.
And then without your name on the certificate, then you said it's a totally different story. He has zero.
The reason I was shaking my head at the beginning is because it sounded like he was getting divorced. His wife had a child that was not biologically his, but he wanted some custody of the child. And unless you're the adopted father, you really get put out in the cold on that one.
Right.
You know, I mean, if the mother is insistent that you not have any kind of relationship with the child, then it can be tricky.
And that leads us to T on line 1 with a similar question. I think you kind of already answered this one as well. Morning, T. Give us the quick version of what's going on, man.
Well, I was with a lady. She got pregnant. We separated. She went back to her ex. And then when my daughter was born, she had him put on the birth certificate. So basically, I have no rights.
It's like a reverse Tom. We got a reverse Tom here.
T is literally the guy that we said vanished. I mean, I know it's a different child, different relationship. We've got a very young child here versus a 10-year-old who's also young. But yeah, it's amazing that we're dealing with this right now this morning. It's the opposite side of the same coin.
That's the other guy.
Yeah, and so what you want, T, is you want custody. You want a relationship with your daughter and then the responsibilities that come with that. Correct? Do I just kill phone calls? I'm a call killer?
I think your voice adversely affects cell phone.
Oh my gosh.
T is he's gone.
Okay. Well, we are now gonna operate in the world of assumptions. So it sounds like what T wants is
he wants to be part of the kid's life.
Right. So he's gonna have to do is to make a paternity challenge in court. You have to do DNA test to fill paperwork out, file it with the court, and then at that point, assuming he comes back as the biological father, then he's going to have certain rights then and responsibilities that come with that.
So even if you're written off the birth certificate, you can still get yourself back into that relationship.
It's somehow, but that doesn't mean that the court's going to just necessarily unilaterally award custody to this person, because you have a mother and an adopted father, essentially. Because if they put the non-biological father signs the birth certificate, you've got, listen, this can get kind of squirrely when you've got a biological father who wants to be in the picture now. And so this gets way beyond stuff that I've even dealt with kind of collaterally in my practice or in my own personal experiences, where he's going to really need to get a good family law attorney to help walk him through this, because the court's going to look at a number of factors the way that they always do when assigning custody. And, we're 2 years into this. He said he hasn't done anything yet. And, well, he presumably knew about this 2 years ago too.
I was going to ask you, does time affect the judgment? If you were quick to, as soon as that kid was born, you're fighting the good fight. I want to be in this kid's life right away. Does that change?
Yeah, I think that it does. I could be wrong. You might have a family law lawyer listening to me right now, pulling their hair out, saying, "No, David, that time doesn't impact
law, David."
But you look at a situation where you've got a woman who's going to give birth to a baby, and she's got a man here that she has, or who has agreed to then sign as the parent, sign the birth certificate, signing up for those responsibilities, and then you've got the biological father saying, "Hey, no, wait, that is my child." You're going to have a paternity battle there. And that's essentially what is shaping up, because I don't know what the father who is on the birth certificate is going to claim. He's going to say, "No, actually, that is." I know, T, you're saying that that's your child, but actually, that's my biological child. There are so many things we don't know here, and that's why you get into this legal quagmire here, and it's so fact specific.
Movie plot rom-com, right here.
Yeah, I know. I'm not seeing a lot of comedy yet, or romance, but it's well, we know what romance leads to.
Right, yeah. That's I think our lesson we learned here today, don't fall in love. That is the lesson from our segment with the Law Frog.
But if you're ready to, let me give you my cell phone number off the air.
If you're looking for love, you want a heartbreak, we got your heartbreaker over here.
Well, I got another heartbreak lane.
And that was fast. 9:50. We are done. We are more than done.
Thank you for listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM, presented by McDivitt Law Firm.